Captain Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the last resort, watching the neon signs of Nexus Station drift by as her ship prepared for departure. The irony of running a smuggling operation from a luxury passenger vessel wasn't lost on her. But that was precisely why it worked. Nobody expected a former Alliance military pilot to be hauling contraband in what looked like a floating five-star hotel. Docking clamps released, Captain called out her first officer, Marcus Rivera, from the pilot's station. His cybernetic eye whirred as it adjusted to the changing light conditions. Station control has cleared us for departure. Sarah nodded, running her fingers along the polished wooden railing that lined the bridge. Real wood, just one of the many expensive touches that made the last resort look like nothing more than a pleasure cruise ship for wealthy tourists. Take us out, nice and easy. We're just another bored-rich family heading out to see the sights of the frontier. The massive vessel pulled away from the station with all the grace of a dancer, its gleaming hull catching the light of the system's twin suns. To any observer, it would appear to be exactly what it claimed to be: a converted luxury liner running tours through the safer regions of human-controlled space. The reality was far more interesting. Package secure in Cargo Vault 3, reported Maya Santos, her security chief, through the ship's comm. The former Alliance Marine had been with Sarah since the beginning, and she knew exactly how to hide things that needed hiding. Environmental controls are stable and no signs of scanner activity from the station. Excellent. Sarah settled into her captain's chair, bringing up the navigation displays with a wave of her hand. Let's see what's so special about this cargo that someone's willing to pay us 3 million credits to move it. Marcus gave her a sidelong glance. You know the rules, Captain. No peeking at the merchandise. I also know that anything worth that much money is either incredibly valuable or incredibly dangerous, usually both. She pulled up the ship's security feeds, cycling through different views of Cargo Vault 3. Whatever was in that sealed container, it was important enough that their employer had insisted on complete radio silence and a very specific course through the frontier. The last resort accelerated smoothly away from Nexus Station, its massive engines humming with barely a vibration through the deck plates. Sarah had spent a small fortune making sure her ship could outrun anything that might take an interest in it, all while looking like nothing more than an overpriced pleasure yacht. Transit calculations complete, Marcus announced. Ready for FTL, jump on your mark. Sarah took one last look at the sensor displays, checking for any signs of pursuit or unusual activity. Everything looked clear, but 2 decades of smuggling had taught her that clear usually meant you weren't looking hard enough. Something feels off about this job, she muttered, more to herself than her crew. They all feel off lately, Marcus replied, his cybernetic eye glowing faintly in the dim light of the bridge. Ever since the Archon incident, everyone's jumping at shadows. He wasn't wrong. 6 months ago, an entire Alliance battle group had vanished without a trace in the Archon sector. The official story blamed it on a navigational error leading to a mass misjump, but Sarah had contacts in the Alliance Navy who painted a very different picture. Something had happened out there, something that had the various powers of human space arming themselves to the teeth. Hold departure for 2 minutes, Sarah ordered suddenly. Maya, I want you to do one more sweep of that cargo hold. Check for any unusual energy signatures or transmission sources. You think we're carrying more than just expensive trinkets. Maya's voice carried a note of concern. 3 million credits is a lot of money for trinkets. Sarah stood and walked to the tactical station, bringing up a more detailed scan of their cargo. And our employer was very specific about our course, almost like they wanted to make sure we passed through certain sectors at certain times. The minutes ticked by as Maya conducted her sweep. Sarah could feel the tension building on the bridge. They'd all been in this business long enough to know when something wasn't adding up. Captain, Maya's voice crackled through the comm, all pretense of casualness gone. You need to see this. The container, it's not just cargo. There's something alive in there. Sarah felt her blood run cold. Living cargo meant complications, and complications in their line of work usually ended with someone getting shot. Details, Maya. What are we looking at? Some kind of stasis pod, military grade. And these markings, I've never seen anything like them. They're not human, Captain. Whatever's in there, it's not from Earth or any of the colonies. Sarah exchanged glances with Marcus, whose cybernetic eye was now cycling through various scanning modes as he processed this new information. They'd just stumbled into something much bigger than a simple smuggling job. Options, she asked, already knowing they were limited. We could return to station, claim mechanical problems, Marcus suggested, forfeit the contract, and walk away. Sarah shook her head. 3 million credits for alien cargo. Someone would hunt us down just to make sure we couldn't talk about what we saw. No, we're committed now. She keyed the ship-wide comm. All hands, battle stations. Maya, get up here and bring everything you've got on that pod. Marcus, get us away from the station. Now. The last resort's engines flared to life, pushing the massive vessel into the darkness of space. As they accelerated toward their jump point, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were now pawns in a game much larger and more dangerous than simple smuggling. Whatever was in that pod, someone had gone to a lot of trouble to make sure it traveled through very specific parts of space at very specific times. The question was, were they delivering it somewhere, or was it being delivered to them? Sarah had a feeling they'd find out soon enough. In her experience, the universe rarely kept its secrets for long, especially the dangerous ones. The stasis pod's control panel flickered to life under Maya's careful touch, casting an eerie blue glow across Cargo Hold 3. Sarah watched as her security chief's fingers danced across the alien interface, each movement precise and deliberate. These markings, Maya murmured, tracing a series of intricate symbols etched into the pod's surface. They're Mergen, high-cased, by the looks of it. Sarah felt her heart rate spike. The Mergians were among the most advanced species humanity had encountered, and among the most secretive. Their technology was centuries ahead of human achievements, but they rarely shared it, preferring to remain isolated in their corner of the galaxy. Can you open it? Sarah asked, though she wasn't entirely sure she wanted the answer to be yes. Maya's cybernetic eye whirred as she studied the control panel. I think so. The pod's life support is stable, and the occupant's vital signs are strong. But Captain, she hesitated, if there's a high-cased Mergen in here, we're in way over our heads. We were in over our heads the moment we accepted this job, Sarah replied. Open it. The pod hissed as its seals released, venting clouds of cryogenic gases into the cargo hold. As the mist cleared, Sarah found herself staring at something she never thought she'd see. A Mergen aristocrat, her iridescent scales shimmering even in the dim light of the hold. But what caught Sarah's attention wasn't the Mergen's obvious high breeding or the incredibly advanced tech she was wearing. It was the fear in her multifaceted eyes as they snapped open. You must help us, the Mergen gasped, her translator struggling to keep up with her rushed words. They're coming. Who's coming? Sarah demanded, but she already knew she wouldn't like the answer. The purifiers. The Mergen tried to stand but stumbled, still weak from stasis. My name is Venalar, first daughter of House Lar, and I carry something they must never obtain. Marcus's voice crackled over the comm before Sarah could respond. Captain, we've got problems. 3 ships just dropped out of FTL at R6. Energy signatures match Mergen military vessels. Sarah cursed under her breath. Time to intercept. 10 minutes, maybe less. They're pushing their drives hard. Vena grabbed Sarah's arm with surprising strength. Those aren't military vessels. They're wearing stolen signatures. The purifiers have infiltrated our defense forces, corrupted our leadership. What I carry? She pressed a hand to her chest, where a faint glow pulsed beneath her robes. It's proof. Proof that could tear our society apart, or save it. Sarah had smuggled many things in her career, but political refugees carrying state secrets. That was new. Maya, Get her to medical. Marcus, push the engines as hard as they'll take it. We're not getting paid enough for a firefight with Mersian warships, real or fake. The Last Resort's engines roared to life, pushing the massive ship faster as Sarah sprinted for the bridge. By the time she reached her station, the pursuing vessels had closed half the distance. They're charging weapons, Marcus reported, his cybernetic eye rapidly cycling through tactical displays. Definitely not standard Mersian protocols. These guys aren't playing by any rules I know. Sarah brought up the navigation charts, looking for options. The Mersians' technology was far superior to anything humans had developed. In a straight fight, the Last Resort wouldn't stand a chance. But Sarah hadn't survived this long by fighting fair. That nebula, she said, pointing to a massive cloud of gas and dust about 2 light-years off their course. How close can you get us to its edge? Marcus studied the readings and grinned. Close enough to make them nervous. The electromagnetic interference will play hell with their targeting systems. And ours, Maya added as she entered the bridge, having settled their unexpected passenger in medical. We'll be flying blind in there. Sarah smiled grimly. Then it's a good thing we've got the best pilot in the sector. Plot the course, Marcus. Maya, I want every scanner we have watching those ships. If they so much as sneeze, I want to know about it. As the Last Resort changed course toward the nebula, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what she'd gotten her crew into. Mersian politics were dangerous enough from a distance. Being in the middle of what appeared to be an attempted coup was definitely not in her business plan. Captain, Maya called out, her voice tense. They're launching fighters. 6, no, 8 craft. Definitely not standard Mersian design. Time to the nebula. 3 minutes to the outer edge, Marcus replied. But those fighters will reach us in 2. Sarah keyed the ship-wide comm. All hands, brace for evasive maneuvers. This is going to get rough. She switched to the medical channel. Dr. Evans, secure our guest. I need to know what we're really carrying here. As if in answer, the ship rocked with the first impact of enemy fire. The Last Resort's shields held, but the power fluctuation made the lights flicker ominously. Shields at 80%, Maya reported. Their weapons are modified, more powerful than standard Mersian armament. Sarah watched as the fighters closed in, their formations tight and professional. These weren't ordinary pirates or raiders. They moved with the precision of elite military units. 1 minute to nebula edge, Marcus called out. But we're not going to make it without some help. Those fighters are too fast. Sarah's mind raced through options, each one worse than the last. They couldn't outrun their pursuers, couldn't outfight them, and couldn't hide from them. Not in open space, but maybe. Maya, pull power from the passenger deck life support and reroute it to the rear shields. Marcus, kill the engine safeties. Give me everything they've got. She keyed the comm again. All hands, this is not a drill. Emergency Protocol 7. I repeat, Emergency Protocol 7. She saw Marcus's eyes widen as he realized what she was planning. Captain, that's insane. The hull wasn't designed for a lot of things we've done to this ship. Sarah cut him off. Execute the order. As her crew scrambled to comply, Sarah thought about the Mersian aristocrat in her medical bay, and whatever secret she carried that was worth killing for. Whatever happened next, the Last Resort was now part of something much bigger than a simple smuggling run. And Sarah had a feeling that reaching the nebula would only be the beginning of their problems. The Last Resort shuddered as it plunged into the nebula's outer edges, its hull groaning under the strain of velocities it was never meant to achieve. Tendrils of ionized gas twisted around the ship like ethereal fingers, while the electromagnetic interference turned their sensor displays into abstract art. Status report, Sarah demanded, gripping her chair as another shockwave rocked the bridge. Hull integrity at 68%. Maya responded, her fingers dancing across multiple emergency panels. 2 stress fractures in the port side, but emergency containment is holding. Those engine modifications we made on Titan are the only reason we haven't torn ourselves apart. Marcus's cybernetic eye glowed brighter as it compensated for the deteriorating visibility. 3 fighters still on our tail. Lost track of the others in the interference. Main pursuit vessels are holding at the nebula's edge, probably worried about their precious ships. A harsh laugh echoed through the medical channel. The purifiers care nothing for ships or lives. Vena's voice crackled through the static. They serve only their vision of genetic purity. The technology I carry. They believe it will help them identify and eliminate what they call deviations in our species. Sarah processed this information as she studied the tactical display. The nebula's charged particles were playing havoc with their sensors, but that worked both ways. In this soup, superior immersion technology meant less than experience and instinct. Marcus, kill all external lighting. Redirect power to the structural integrity field. She switched channels. Engineering, I need options. What's the status of that little surprise we installed in Cargo Vault 2? Chief Engineer Lee's voice came back distorted but excited. The mineral dispersal system is ready, Captain. But in this nebula, the particulate spread will be unpredictable. We might blind ourselves as much as them. Better blind than dead. Sarah turned to Maya. Plot me a course through the densest part of the nebula. I want us surrounded by as much charged gas as possible. You're going to try the Titan Gambit. Maya realized, her eyes widening. Here, in a nebula. The Titan Gambit was for asteroids. Marcus protested. This is something else entirely. Sarah's grin was sharp in the dim emergency lighting. The principle's the same. We just need to think bigger. She keyed the ship-wide comm. All hands. This is the captain. Secure all loose items and prep for multiple high-G maneuvers. This is going to get interesting. The last resort plunged deeper into the nebula, its massive form now just a shadow among shadows. The pursuing fighters were forced to close distance to maintain visual contact, exactly as Sarah had hoped. Engineering. Begin mineral dispersal on my mark. Marcus, plot us a spiral course through that dense pocket at bearing 340. Maya, divert all remaining power to engines and structural integrity. We're about to find out just how much abuse this old girl can take. As her crew acknowledged their orders, Sarah thought about the countless modifications she'd made to the last resort over the years. The supposedly luxury vessel was more than just a smuggling ship. It was a testament to human ingenuity and adaptability. Where merchant ships relied on advanced technology, the last resort relied on jury-rigged systems and solutions born of desperate necessity. Fighters closing to attack range, Maya reported. They're charging weapons. Now, Sarah ordered. Execute. The last resort's engines flared to life as hundreds of kilos of metallic particles erupted from specialized ports along its hull. In normal space, the cloud would have dissipated quickly. But in the nebula's charged atmosphere, the particles became a swirling maelstrom of electrically charged debris. The effect was instantaneous. The pursuing fighters' energy weapons connected with the cloud, creating a cascade of electromagnetic chaos. Their targeting systems, already struggling with the nebula's interference, were completely overwhelmed. But Sarah wasn't done. Marcus, full power to engines. Take us through that spiral course. Tight as you can make it. The last resort accelerated through its own debris field, its reinforced hull shrugging off impacts that would have shredded a normal luxury vessel. Behind them, the fighters attempted to follow, their superior maneuverability now working against them as the spiral course pulled them deeper into the expanding cloud of charged particles. 2 fighters have lost control, Maya reported with barely contained excitement. The third is, wait. Her console erupted in warnings. Multiple detonations. The nebula, they're igniting the gas. The pursuing fighters had turned their weapons to full power, trying to burn through the interference. Instead, they'd created a chain reaction in the nebula's volatile gases. The explosion caught them in its leading edge, turning sophisticated mergent technology into expanding balls of plasma. Sarah watched the destruction on her tactical display, but she couldn't relax yet. Status of the main pursuit vessels. Still holding position at the nebula's edge. Marcus confirmed. But Captain, that explosion is going to create one hell of a shockwave. Perfect. Sarah's smile was fierce. That's our way out. The blast wave will mask our engine signature long enough to reach the nebula's far side. By the time they realize where we've gone, we'll be in open space with a dozen possible vectors. And if the wave tears us apart instead? Maya asked. Then we'll have given the Mergens a very expensive lesson in human improvisation. Sarah keyed the medical channel. Dr. Evans, how's our guest? Stable, but concerned. She says we're carrying something that could change the balance of power in Mergen space. Captain, she wants to talk to you. Says it's time you knew exactly what you've gotten involved in. Sarah considered this as the last resort, rode the expanding shockwave toward freedom. She'd started this job thinking it was just another smuggling run. Now she was caught in the middle of what sounded like a Mergen civil war, with technology that could reshape an entire civilization. Tell her I'm on my way. Sarah decided. Maya, you have the bridge. Get us clear of this nebula and find us somewhere quiet to hide while we figure out our next move. As she headed for medical, Sarah couldn't help but smile. The Mergens might have superior technology, but they'd just learned an expensive lesson about underestimating human resourcefulness. Sometimes the best solution wasn't the most advanced. It was the one your enemy never saw coming. And Sarah had a feeling they'd need plenty more human ingenuity before this job was finished. Sarah found Venna in the medical bay, her iridescent scales dimmed with exhaustion, but her eyes sharp and alert. The Mergen aristocrat was studying a holographic display of what looked like genetic sequences, the alien symbols scrolling past faster than human eyes could follow. Your ship, Venna said without looking up. It's not what it appears to be. Neither are you, Sarah countered, leaning against the doorframe. Time to tell me what's really going on here. What are the purifiers really after? Venna's multiple eyes focused on Sarah with unsettling intensity. The future, or rather, the power to control it. She gestured at the holographic display. This data contains proof that my people's genetic purity is a lie. We've been evolving, adapting, becoming something new. The purifiers want to stop that evolution, to freeze us in what they consider our perfect form. Before Sarah could respond, the ship's alarm blared. Maya's voice crackled through the comm. Captain to the bridge. Multiple ships just dropped out of FTL, including 2 Mergen dreadnoughts. Sarah sprinted for the bridge, Venna following close behind. When they arrived, the tactical display showed a situation that made the nebula battle look like a casual skirmish. How did they find us? Marcus demanded, his cybernetic eye rapidly cycling through sensor data. They didn't, Venna said grimly. This is a standard search pattern. They're sweeping every sector methodically. We just had the misfortune to be in this one when they arrived. Sarah studied the display, her mind racing. The dreadnoughts were massive vessels, bristling with weapons that could vaporize the last resort with a single shot. Between them and the smaller escort ships, there was no direction that didn't lead to certain death. Options, she asked her crew. We could surrender, Maya suggested, though her tone made it clear what she thought of that idea. The purifiers don't take prisoners, Venna stated flatly. They can't risk word of their activities reaching the general population. Chief Engineer Lee's voice joined the conversation through the comm. Captain, remember that experimental drive modification we discussed, the one that might tear the ship apart. Sarah's eyes narrowed. The one you specifically told me would be suicide to attempt. That modification. Yes, Lie confirmed. But I've been running simulations. If we route power through the auxiliary systems in a specific sequence, we might survive long enough to execute a blind jump. Might? Marcus asked. 60-40 chance we explode, Lie admitted, but better odds than facing those dreadnoughts. Sarah turned to Venna. Your people built their empire on predictability and control. What would they expect a human smuggler to do in this situation? Run, Venna answered immediately, or surrender. They believe humans always choose self-preservation. Perfect. Sarah's smile was dangerous. Then let's show them how wrong they are. Maya, begin evacuating all non-essential areas. Marcus, plot us a course directly between those dreadnoughts. Between them. Marcus's organic eye widened while his cybernetic one whirred in disbelief. Captain, that's exactly what they won't expect. Sarah finished. Lie, how long do you need to prep that modification? 10 minutes to reroute the power systems. But Captain, even if it works, we'll only get one shot at this. Make it 5 minutes, Sarah ordered. That's all the time we've got. She turned to her crew. I won't lie. This is probably the craziest thing we've ever attempted. If anyone wants to take their chances in the escape pods, now's the time. The bridge was silent for a moment before Maya spoke. We followed you through worse, Captain. Debatable, Marcus muttered, but his hands were already plotting the suicidal course through the merchant fleet. Venna watched this exchange with growing amazement. You're going to attack 2 dreadnoughts. With a converted luxury liner. Attack? No. Sarah's grin was fierce. We're going to show your people what happens when you back humans into a corner. Lie. Begin power rerouting. Maya, divert all power from life support to shields and engines. Marcus, get ready for the ride of your life. The next 5 minutes were controlled chaos as the crew prepared for what might be their final maneuver. Warning lights flashed as systems were pushed well beyond their design limits. The hull creaked ominously as Lie's modifications strained the ship's structural integrity. The Mersian aristocrat secured herself just as the first fighter shots streaked past their bow. The last resort shuddered but held course, driving straight toward the space between the massive dreadnoughts. They're powering up their main weapons, Maya warned. Targeting solutions in 30 seconds. Sarah watched the distance counter tick down, waiting for the perfect moment. Everything would have to be timed perfectly, or they'd be nothing but scattered atoms in space. Now, Marcus. Lie. Engage the modification. Maya. Drop shields, and give everything to engines. The last resort lurched as its overtaxed engines screamed to life. The experimental modification kicked in, creating a cascade of energy that should have torn the ship apart. Instead, it warped space around them in ways that human science hadn't thought possible. For a brief moment, reality itself seemed to bend. Then everything went white. When Sarah's vision cleared, the Mersian fleet was behind them, their weapons firing into empty space, where the last resort had been a fraction of a second before. What? What did we just do? Marcus asked, his cybernetic eye still trying to process what had happened. We just proved that human ingenuity trumps Mersian technology, Sarah answered, though she was as surprised as anyone that they'd survived. Lie, damage report. Everything's broken, the engineer replied cheerfully. But we're alive, which is more than I expected. We'll need some serious repairs before we can try that again. The Mersians will be pursuing as soon as they realize what happened, Venna warned. That maneuver, it shouldn't have been possible with human technology. That's because it wasn't just human technology, Sarah revealed. We modified our systems using salvaged pieces from a dozen different species. The Mersians aren't the only ones who can adapt and evolve. As her crew began damage assessment and plotting their next move, Sarah realized they'd crossed a line. They were no longer just smugglers trying to complete a job. They were now active participants in a conflict that could reshape the balance of power in known space. And somehow, she was okay with that. The last resort limped through space, its hull scared and systems barely functioning after their impossible escape. They'd found refuge in an abandoned mining facility orbiting a gas giant, but Sarah knew it was only temporary. The purifiers would never stop hunting them. The good news, Lie reported from engineering, is that I can get us moving again. The bad news is that experimental drive modification burned out half our systems. We won't survive another stunt like that. Sarah stood in the ship's makeshift war room, formerly the first-class lounge, studying tactical displays with her crew and their Mersian guest. We don't need another miracle escape. We need an end to this. The data I carry must reach the Mersian Council, Venna insisted. Once they see proof of our natural evolution, the Purifier's ideology will collapse. Assuming the Council isn't already compromised, Maya pointed out. We could be delivering you right into their hands. Marcus's cybernetic eye whirred as he analyzed patrol patterns. The Purifiers have locked down every approach to Mersian space. Even if we could fight our way through, we'd never reach the Council chambers. Then we make them come to us, Sarah said quietly. An idea forming. Venna, you said the Purifiers believe in absolute genetic purity. How would they react if they thought your data was being transmitted to every communication hub in known space? Understanding dawned in Venna's multifaceted eyes. They would have to stop it. Their entire movement depends on controlling this information. Exactly. Sarah activated the main display. We're going to set a trap, but not just for the Purifiers. We're going to expose them to everyone. Human, Mersian, and anyone else watching. Over the next hour, they formulated a plan that was equal parts brilliant and insane. The last resort would position itself near a major communications hub, appearing to prepare for a massive data broadcast. The Purifiers would have no choice but to commit their forces to stop them. This is suicide, Marcus said, but he was already plotting the approach vectors. We'll be surrounded. That's the point, Sarah replied. We need witnesses. The more ships they send, the more eyes will be watching. Maya, what's the status of that transmission package? Ready. Maya's fingers danced across her console. I've encoded it with enough encryption to make it look like we're trying to hide something big. They'll have to take us seriously. Good. Sarah turned to their guest. Venna, I need you to do something that goes against everything your people believe in. I need you to trust a bunch of humans you barely know. The Mersian aristocrat was silent for a long moment before responding. You've already proven that humans are more than we believed. What do you need? Access to your biological data systems, not the evolution proof. We need to convince their sensors that we're actually preparing to broadcast it. If we fail, you'll have handed them everything they want. If we fail, we'll be dead anyway, Sarah countered. But if we succeed, we'll have an audience of billions when we expose their true nature. The next 12 hours were a blur of preparation. Lai and his engineering team pushed their damaged systems to their limits, rigging sophisticated sensor echoes that would convince anyone watching that they were preparing for a massive data burst. Maya and Marcus coordinated with trusted contacts, ensuring news of their position would reach the right ears. Sarah found Venna in the medical bay, interfacing with the ship's computers. Having second thoughts. No. The Mersian scales shifted colors with emotion. I'm realizing that perhaps my people's obsession with purity and control has cost us more than we knew. Look at this ship. It's a patchwork of different technologies, held together by human determination and creativity. Yet it works better than many of our pure designs. That's humanity for you. Sarah smiled. We adapt. We survive. And we're really good at turning other people's tools to our own purposes. The alert came sooner than expected. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL, led by a Mersian flagship that dwarfed even the dreadnoughts they'd encountered before. Purifier command vessel identified, Maya reported, along with at least 20 support ships. And, yes, we're picking up civilian traffic diverting to investigate. Word is spreading. Good. Sarah took her place on the bridge. Everyone knows their parts. Let's give them a show they'll never forget. The next few minutes were tense as the Purifier fleet surrounded them. Their commander's transmission was predictably arrogant. Surrender the data and prepare to be boarded. This is your only warning. Sarah's response was to begin their fake data transmission preparation, making it obvious enough for their sensors to detect. The Purifier ships tightened their circle, weapons charged. They're deploying boarding shuttles, Marcus warned. Multiple vectors. Perfect. Sarah's smile was predatory. Spring the trap. The last resort's remaining weapons came online, but they weren't targeting the purifier ships. Instead, they fired precise shots at seemingly empty space, revealing the cloaked civilian news vessels that had been gathering to witness the confrontation. The purifier commander's reaction was immediate and damning. Destroy those vessels. No witnesses. And there it was, proof of their true nature, broadcast live across every frequency. The purifier fleet turned their weapons on civilian ships, revealing their willingness to murder innocents to protect their secrets. But Sarah wasn't done. Now, lie. The engineering team activated their final surprise, the culmination of every jury-rigged modification they'd made over the years. The last resort's hybrid systems created a localized disruption field that temporarily disabled the advanced merchant weapon systems, giving the civilian ships time to escape and broadcast what they'd witnessed. In the chaos that followed, 3 Mersian Defense Fleet vessels dropped out of FTL, ships loyal to the legitimate government, summoned by Venice's hidden signal. The purifiers found themselves caught between defending forces and a now hostile civilian population. Transmission from Merchant High Command. Maya announced. They're demanding the purifiers stand down pending investigation. It's over. Sarah watched as the purifier fleet surrendered, their attempted genocide exposed to the galaxy. No, she corrected. It's just beginning. Vena's data still needs to reach the Council. Her people still need to face the truth about their evolution. And what about us? Marcus asked. Sarah looked around at her crew. Human ingenuity and determination personified. We do what we always do. We adapt. We survive. And we keep reminding the galaxy that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to look at the impossible and say, we'll find a way. The last resort hung in space, battered but unbroken, a testament to the human spirit that had turned a luxury liner into a symbol of resistance. They had achieved the impossible not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through creativity, adaptability, and the courage to stand against tyranny. It wasn't the job they'd signed up for, but as Sarah watched the Mersian Defense Fleet escort the purifier vessels away, she knew it was exactly where they needed to be. Sometimes the best smugglers weren't the ones who hid in the shadows, but the ones who chose to step into the light and change the galaxy for the better, even if they had to break all the rules to do it.